Folks, stop lying to yourself. I'll explain what I mean and then get into the latest home prices and insights for York Region for week ending October the 1st, 2025. If you want to speak directly with me about your real estate situation, selling, buying, it's really simple. Below this video, in the description, there's a link to my calendar. Click on that, book a time that's convenient for you, and we'll talk about whatever's on your mind. We sold the property and my sellers had forgotten something there that I arranged to go pick up. So when I passed by the house, the buyer hands me the stuff I was picking up, and we get to chatting. And he says almost right away he regrets buying this house. Think about it. I'm representing a seller. I meet the buyer there. It's the first time I'm actually meeting the buyer. And he's telling me he regrets buying a house that I sold. Now, I represented the sellers. And I'm like, but why? He says, well, there's a home that just came up on the market and it's about the same price that we bought this for, and it would suit our needs much better. I go, but you bought this not knowing it would suit your needs? Well, we thought it would, but that home would suit our needs better. I'm leaving thinking, can you imagine, I'm the one who sold it. I'm like, man, that's unpleasant for me to hear that somebody who just bought a home that we sold is unhappy there. But nobody forced him to buy it. He's the one who put the offer in to purchase the home. I was recently invited to a home. The owners are talking about selling their home with me. And as I'm going through the home, I can see that the home is in original condition. Now, I also know that they purchased this home just only 3 years ago. And that is obviously a big topic of conversation there. And so I bring it up, like, folks, you bought this only 3 years ago. Why are you selling? And they said, well, when we bought it, our budget was really to buy a semi or a townhouse, but modern, with nothing to update, modern condition. But as we were looking, we also saw that there were some detached in the neighborhood that also fit our budget, but it was at the top end of our budget. But we got excited about buying this detached property that needed a lot of work, because really those were the only detached that fit their budget, are ones that needed a lot of work. All the other detached that were modernized just were out of reach for them. So they bought, instead of buying a semi that needed nothing to do, they bought a detached that needed a lot of work, and they got excited about buying the detached. And their plan was to do renos, and they've been there for 3 years and have done absolutely nothing. They didn't have the budget to do work. Plus, it turns out it's kind of not something they're excited about doing. But they had convinced themselves of that when they went to buy it, that they were going to do all these renos, and down the road one day this house will be worth so much more because it's a detached after all. I can't tell you how many times I've seen buyers lie to themselves. They convince themselves of something in the heat of the moment and they regret it later. Now, these are very, very expensive mistakes. Buyers sometimes they know they need so much space, so much square footage, for example, and they need that square footage and the certain amount of rooms for their family to function properly, to live properly the way they want to live. And the only place they could buy that is out here for their budget. But the cool neighborhood is here. They could buy in that neighborhood if they buy a smaller home. And they get excited about that they can buy a smaller home. And that's what they do. And then they regret it. because that smaller home doesn't suit their needs. This is just one example, just like the other example. Yeah, we're going to buy a home that's going to need a lot of work, but at least we bought, this home in a better neighborhood, or it's detached. And you're lying to yourself. You're not going to do the updates that you think you're going to do. You're lying to yourself thinking that that smaller home, you'll do just fine. You're going to compromise, but because you're in the better neighborhood, it's going to work. These are very, very expensive mistakes. Now, some things are easy to compromise with, and you'll be fine. But man, too many people are buying properties. Like the person I met, the buyer who just bought a property that we sold that I picked up the items for, like this guy spent $1.5 million on this property. And he wasn't 100% convinced that this property is going to suit his needs. Like, think about that for a second. Why would you spend hundreds of thousands, and if we're talking York region, millions of dollars on a property, if you're not 100% convinced that that home will suit your needs for the long term? You absolutely have to be. Don't lie to yourself. Too many people do that and regret it later. If you feel this video can help somebody you know, please pass it along. And if you get value from what we're talking about, subscribe. Now, let's get into the numbers. Here we go, folks. York region, detached properties. Before we get into our regular program of weekly data, let me break down more of historical data. We're going to go back about 5 years. We're looking at data broken down by month for detached properties only, but for all of York region. So for September 2025, 555 detached properties were sold, which is a bit more than September 2024. It's also more than September 2023. It is a bit more than September 2022, but less than September 2021. So we've seen this September the highest sales of detached properties for 3 years. Average sold price for September is $1,463,000. Overall, average sold price for several years now has been declining. 1,463 is 8% lower than the average sold price last year, September. It is 11.6% lower than September 2023, 4% lower than September 2022. When we compare it to the peak, which was high 1.9s, we are currently 26% lower than peak pricing in 2029. You go back a little more, compared to 2020, we're currently higher by 14%. If you want to compare it to 2019 average sold price, we are 27% higher than the average sold price in 2019. So, however you want to look at it, there's a story. But these are the real numbers of what's going on with York region detached properties going back several years. Today, we're focused on Vaughan, Richmond Hill, and Markham detached properties. We're going to start off with Vaughan. For week ending October the 1st, 32 detached properties sold, which was same as the previous week. 7 of those properties sold at $2 million or more, which was the same as the previous week. 7 selling at $2 million or more represents 22% of all detached property sales. Average sold price, it's not the same as the previous week. Average sold price has come down by quite a bit to $1,558,000. 1,558 is 1% lower than the same week a year ago. The median price of 1,425 it's slightly higher. It rounds off to be 0% change, but it is slightly higher. The dotted line, the 4-week moving average price and median price have been trending down. The last few weeks for September, it's really tough to gauge. 32 were sold, 16% sold at list price or more. Listings. So if we look at the active listings, which is currently for week ending October the 1st, 652 detached properties available for sale across Vaughan. It's just for Vaughan and only detached properties. 44% of those listings are actually listed at $2 million or more. 44% listed at $2 million or more. You're looking to buy a detached property in Vaughan, you got to understand Vaughan is not the budget area to be buying properties. Price points are really high when it comes to Vaughan, Richmond Hill, Markham a little bit less, but Vaughan and Richmond Hill, for sure, price points are really high. 4.7 is the months of inventory for detached properties in Vaughan. Here's Richmond Hill. Only 14 detached properties sold. 5 of those sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price is $1,834,000. 1,834 is 4% higher than the same week a year ago. The median price of 1,599 is 8% lower. 14 were sold. 29% sold at list price or more. 66 were listed. Active listings, 561. 47% of all active listings are listed at $2 million or more. That's how many are listed. Very few each week are actually selling. For Richmond Hill, only 1.5% of the properties listed at $2 million or more are actually selling. So if there's 300 available for sale that are $2 million or more, only 3 are actually selling each week. 9.2 is the months of inventory for Richmond Hill. Here's Markham. 24 detached properties sold. 5 of those sold at $2 million or more. Average sold price is $1,572,000. 1,572 is 7% lower than the same week a year ago. The median price of 1,495 is basically the same, just a little bit lower. Rounds off to 0% change, but it is a little bit lower than the same week a year ago. 24 were sold. A third sold at list price or more. Listings jumped up from one week to the next. There's 510 available detached properties for sale across Markham. 34% are listed at $2 million or more. 2.7% of those are selling every single week. And 4.9 is the months of inventory. Here's a quick summary. You can experience a balanced market. You can experience a buyer's market. In some rare situations, you're going to have competition to buy a specific property, but mostly balanced or buyers is really the two markets you're going to experience if you're buying in Vaughan, Richmond Hill, or Markham, if you're buying a detached property. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.